Tonight feels different, not because the world changed, but because I did. For a long time, love felt like a mystery I was still learning how to read, like a book missing a page, a song missing a note. I kept walking forward, hoping one day something small would suddenly make everything feel complete. And today, it happened. Today, I learned your birthday. It sounds simple, right? Just a date on a calendar. Just numbers arranged like any other day. But to me, it felt like discovering a quiet holiday the universe had been keeping secret. A day that explains why the world feels softer, why certain sunsets feel warmer, why hope sometimes arrives without knocking. Because now I know the day the world received you, and suddenly, every year has a new meaning. Every season has a new starting point. Every future year has a day circled in quiet gratitude. The day someone I haven't even fully met yet was given to this world. This speech isn't about a birthday. It's about the moment love stops feeling imaginary and starts feeling real. I didn't expect a date to feel like destiny. I didn't expect a simple arrangement of numbers to land in my chest like a quiet sunrise after a long night. But here I am, standing in a moment that feels small to the world and enormous to me, because now I know the day the universe decided it needed you here. For most people, a birthday is cake and candles and messages that arrive at midnight. For most people, it's just another page in the calendar flipping forward like every other page before it. But for me, this date is not ordinary. It feels sacred in a way I don't know how to fully explain. It feels like finding the missing piece of a puzzle I didn't know I had been building my whole life. All this time, the world carried on with quiet certainty. Seasons changed, cities moved, strangers crossed paths, and somewhere in the middle of all of it, your day existed. A day that came and went each year without me knowing its weight, without me knowing the quiet miracle it held. I walked through those days unaware, like someone walking past a lighthouse in daylight, not realizing how bright it becomes at night. And now I know. Now that date sits in my mind like a small glowing star, a reminder that the universe once paused long enough to create someone whose existence would one day change the way I breathe, the way I hope, the way I imagine the future. It's strange how love works like that. It sneaks in through details, through tiny revelations that feel bigger than grand gestures, through simple knowledge that suddenly makes the world feel more personal. Knowing your birthday feels like being trusted with a secret the universe has been protecting for years. I think about that day now, the day you first opened your eyes. The world must have looked the same to everyone else. The sun probably rose like it always does. The sky probably stretched wide and quiet like it always has. People woke up and rushed into their routines without realizing something extraordinary had quietly arrived among them. Somewhere, someone held you for the first time. Somewhere, your first breath filled a room with a future no one could predict. Somewhere, the story of you began without any announcement to the rest of us who would one day feel the ripple of that moment. And I wonder what the air felt like on that day. I wonder what kind of light touched the windows. I wonder if the world shifted, even slightly, just enough to make space for everything you become. Because now that I know your birthday, the past feels different. Every year before this moment feels like a road leading toward this realization. Every passing season feels like it was quietly moving me closer to understanding that your existence was never random. I think about all the birthdays you celebrated without me knowing, all the candles you blew out while I was somewhere else in the world, living a life that hadn't yet learned your name. I think about wishes you made without knowing I would one day be wishing for you too. There is something deeply humbling about that. Knowing that while I was learning how to be myself, you were learning how to be you, while I was navigating my own storms and sunsets, you were living entire chapters I never saw. Entire years of laughter, growth, heartbreak, and hope unfolded before I even knew the day you entered this world. And now the calendar feels different. Now there is a day that holds meaning before it even arrives. A day that carries anticipation like a quiet melody playing in the background of the year. A day that makes the future feel closer and more real. Because birthdays are not just about the past. They are promises. They are markers that say the world kept going, and you kept going with it. They are proof that time moved forward and somehow carried you safely through another year of existence, and knowing your birthday feels like being invited into that promise. It feels like standing at the edge of time and realizing that every year from now on will carry a moment dedicated entirely to celebrating the fact that you exist. There is something beautiful about the simplicity of it. No fireworks, no dramatic declarations, just a date that quietly repeats itself every year like a heartbeat. I imagine the future now, years unfolding like pages, each one arriving with that same day waiting patiently inside it, each year giving me another chance to pause and feel grateful that the world once decided it needed you. I imagine mornings where the first thought of the day is you, nights where the last whisper before sleep is gratitude for the life that began on that date. And suddenly, time feels softer, because time is no longer just passing. It's carrying you forward. It's protecting the story that began on that day. It's guiding every future version of you toward moments we haven't lived yet. Love changes the way you see time. It turns ordinary dates into landmarks. It transforms simple numbers into emotional coordinates. It teaches you that sometimes the most powerful discoveries are not dramatic events but quiet realizations that settle gently into your heart. Learning your birthday didn't feel loud, it felt quiet and steady, like the moment you realize the rain has stopped and the air smells different. It felt like clarity, like the world suddenly made a little more sense, like a missing detail finally clicked into place. And now, every time I see that date, it will carry a story. A story that began before I knew it existed. A story that continues every day you wake up and step into the world again. There is something comforting about knowing the universe has a rhythm, that every year, no matter how chaotic life becomes, this one day will return like a promise kept. And when it does, I will know exactly what it means. It will mean the world once received you. It will mean time has carried you safely through another year. It will mean the story continues. It will mean the universe hasn't stopped believing in the importance of your existence. And that realization feels bigger than words, because in a world that moves fast and forgets easily, birthdays are reminders that some things are worth pausing for, worth celebrating, worth holding gently in both hands like something fragile and precious. Knowing your birthday feels like being given permission to celebrate your existence in the simplest way possible, not with grand speeches or dramatic fireworks, but with quiet gratitude that fills the spaces between words. I imagine the candles now, the soft glow of light flickering in a darkened room, the moment where time slows just enough for a wish to be made. And I think about all the wishes you've made before this moment, all the silent hopes carried in your breath as flames disappeared into smoke. I wonder how many of those wishes were about love, about the future, about the unknown paths waiting ahead. I wonder how many of those wishes were whispers sent into the universe, hoping someone somewhere would one day hear them, because now, standing here with this knowledge, it feels like maybe the universe listened. Maybe it guided two timelines closer without us realizing. Maybe it waited patiently for the moment when a simple date could become a bridge between two lives. And now that bridge exists, a quiet connection built from nothing more than numbers on a calendar, but sometimes the Impless bridges are the strongest ones because they aren't built from pressure or expectation. They are built from meaning that grows slowly and naturally. Knowing your birthday feels like planting a small flag in the timeline of the world and saying, "This day matters. This day changed everything. This day gave the world someone worth knowing, worth loving, worth celebrating." And suddenly, the future feels full of small moments waiting to happen. Small celebrations waiting to be shared. Small reminders that love often begins with the simplest discoveries, not with grand gestures, not with dramatic declarations, but with quiet realizations that settle deep and stay there. Like learning the day someone entered the world and realizing it matters more than you ever expected. And now every year will carry that quiet realization forward. Every year will arrive with a moment waiting to be acknowledged, a moment waiting to be felt. Because now I know your birthday, and that knowledge feels like the beginning of a story that hasn't finished writing itself yet. Like the first line of a letter that keeps unfolding, like the first note of a song that hasn't reached its chorus, like the first step of a journey that keeps stretching toward horizons we haven't seen yet, like the softest promise whispered between seconds that refuses to disappear, like the gentle understanding that time is no longer just something we move through, but something we share in invisible ways that grow stronger with every passing year, like the quiet certainty that every future calendar will carry your day inside it, waiting patiently to arrive again, like the feeling of standing at the edge of something meaningful without fully knowing where it leads, but knowing it matters enough to keep walking forward, like the realization that sometimes love begins not with fireworks but with a date, a simple date, a quiet date, a date that suddenly feels brighter than all the others, a date that changes the way the year looks when you see it from a distance, a date that sits quietly in the background until the moment you notice it and then never disappears again, a date that becomes a reminder that the world once paused long enough to create you, and that pause still echoes through time in ways I am only beginning to understand, and I keep thinking about the years ahead and how they will carry this day forward again and again, like a heartbeat repeating without asking permission, like a promise that doesn't need words, like a quiet rhythm that keeps moving through the future, and I imagine waking up on that day in years I haven't lived yet, and feeling the same quiet gratitude settling in my chest before the sun even rises, and feeling the same gentle awareness that somewhere in the timeline of the universe, this is the day everything began for you, and somehow that beginning keeps reaching forward into every moment that follows. And I find myself wondering how many future birthdays are already waiting patiently in the distance, how many candles are already destined to glow, how many wishes are already preparing to rise into the air like tiny prayers carried by breath and hope and time, and the thought of it feels endless in the best possible way, like a road that doesn't rush toward an ending, but simply keeps unfolding softly into the distance where every year holds the same quiet celebration, weighty, in to be felt again and again and again like a heartbeat that refuses to fade into silence and instead keeps whispering that this day matters, this day matters, this day matters. And the more I sit with that thought, the more it feels like the beginning of something that doesn't need a conclusion because it keeps expanding into the future like light stretching across the horizon without asking where it should stop. And I realize that knowing your birthday is not the end of a discovery, but the start of 1,000 small realizations still waiting to arrive quietly in moments I haven't lived yet. And that thought stays with me like a soft echo that keeps repeating itself in the quiet spaces between seconds where time slows just enough to feel everything at once and nothing at all. And I keep standing here in this moment holding a simple date that somehow feels infinite as it stretches forward into years I haven't touched yet, and memories that haven't happened yet, and wishes that haven't been whispered yet, and candles that haven't been lit yet, and mornings that haven't arrived yet, and nights that haven't settled yet, and futures that haven't unfolded yet. And I keep realizing that this is how love begins sometimes, not with a dramatic moment, but with a quiet piece of knowledge that slowly grows roots deep inside the heart and keeps growing without asking permission and keeps reaching toward the future without needing to know exactly where it will end. There is something quietly powerful about the way time moves. It doesn't ask for permission, it doesn't slow down when we feel unready, and it never explains where it's taking us. It simply continues, steady and patient, carrying every life forward one day at a time. For years, time moved for me like that, quiet, ordinary, predictable. Days stacked on top of days, months folded into years, and the calendar kept turning like a wheel that never questioned its direction. And then one day something changed, in the smallest way possible. A date appeared in my world that had never mattered before. Not because it was new, not because it had suddenly been created. It had always been there, repeating every year with quiet consistency. The difference was that now I understood it. Now I knew what it held. Now I knew who it belonged to. Now I knew the day you arrived. It's strange how knowledge can transform something ordinary into something deeply meaningful. A number becomes a memory. A day becomes a symbol. A simple square on a calendar becomes a place where gratitude quietly lives. Before this moment, birthdays felt distant and general, like holidays you see from afar. They were celebrations for other people, markers of time that moved past me without leaving a mark. But now there is one date that no longer passes quietly. Now there is a day that carries a presence with it, a quiet reminder that the world once changed in a way I never noticed until now. I think about the morning that day first happened, the real one, the first sunrise that greeted your life. Somewhere, the sky opened its light the way it always does, unaware that someone new had just taken their first breath beneath it. The wind probably moved the same way it always had. The streets probably sounded the same to the people who walked them. Life didn't stop to make an announcement. But something extraordinary still happened. You became part of the world, and ever since then, that day has been returning year after year like a promise the universe keeps repeating without needing to be reminded. I imagine all the versions of you that have existed between that first birthday and now, every year shaping you quietly, every experience adding something invisible and important, every laugh, every tear, every lesson becoming part of the person who exists today. There is something deeply humbling about realizing how much life someone has lived before you even knew they existed. Entire chapters written before your story crossed theirs. Entire memories formed in places you've never seen. Entire years that unfolded without any connection to you at all. And yet somehow time carried both stories forward, two timelines moving separately, unaware of each other until the moment they began to overlap. Now, when I think about your birthday, I don't just think about the day you were born. I think about every year that followed, every version of you that existed on that date, every candle that flickered in quiet rooms, every wish whispered into the air before the flames disappeared. I think about the quiet ritual of it all, the gathering of people, the small moments of laughter, the gentle recognition that another year has passed and another chapter has begun. Birthdays are strange like that. They are celebrations of the past and promises of the future at the same time. They hold memory in one hand and possibility in the other. And now, knowing your birthday, I feel connected to both. I feel connected to the years I never saw and the years I hope to witness. There is a quiet beauty in knowing that every future year will carry this day forward again, that no matter how much life changes, this one date will return with the same quiet certainty it always has. It feels grounding in a world that rarely feels still. Time can feel overwhelming sometimes. It moves quickly, and we try to keep up, often forgetting to pause and notice the moments that matter. But birthdays force a pause. They ask us to stop, even briefly, and acknowledge the miracle of someone continuing to exist. And existence is not a small thing. It's easy to forget how extraordinary it is simply to be here, to wake up, to breathe, to feel the quiet rhythm of life continuing another day. We treat existence like something ordinary because it happens every day, but birthdays remind us that every year of existence is a victory in its own quiet way. Knowing your birthday makes that reminder personal. It gives time a face. It gives the calendar a heartbeat. It gives the passing years a reason to feel softer. I imagine future mornings when this day arrives again, waking up with the quiet awareness that somewhere in the flow of time,